Well, people, we have 8 games to go in the Conmebol World Cup qualifiers, and it's now heating up. We are halfway through the marathon that is Conmebol football, where there's madness every day. If you just look in the news, you see Arturo Vidal doing something crazy. Brazil, there's something crazy. And Boca are Boca right now at the moment. And River
We
Plate
don't
didn't
talk
make it.
about that.
And we don't want to talk about it for rank. Now we are talking about national team football, of course, and it's a very intriguing window. Probably this window, we're going to see narratives built and some teams that are going to be absolutely finito after this window. But of course, we got rank in the house.
This window is going to decide a lot of things. I think that teams are desperate for a win. Potentially, I think we're going to see, not mathematically, but the first eliminated team this window. It's gonna be interesting. We're gonna have to see also some teams who have been slumping heavily have to pick themselves back up in this window.
Sure, we're going to be talking about slumping and buckets a lot in this video for sure. But guys, if you want to check out Rank's channel, his link will be in the description down below. Go give him a subscription as he is on the road to 2K subscribers. And of course, hit the like button. Get your thoughts in the comments down below. Get your predictions. Which team do you think desperately needs a victory in this window? As we kind of just look at the table before we go into our predictions, and we're going to give our predictions on how many points each team will get during this window. I would say that the teams that desperately need some positivity and a win, I would say is Uruguay, Venezuela, and then obviously the bottom two. But those sort of teams I'm looking at, I'm saying to myself, they need a win here.
Yeah, definitely. I think that Uruguay, maybe not in terms of points, but in terms of mentality, they definitely need something after a couple of bad results that they've been having and everything that has been going on with the federation, with Bielsa, with the players. They definitely could use some positivity at the moment. As for Venezuela, like we were hyping them up so much, and as it stands, they're sitting out of the qualification spots, and they really need to turn things around. And for the bottom two, like it's desperate times at the moment. But if they can pick up some points, potentially they can revive their campaign.
First off, with Argentina, here's actually a crazy stat for you, Rank. Argentina have gotten one win in Paraguay in the 21st century in 6 games. One win in 6 games. So it's not a very favorable ground to go to. And we see with Gustavo Alvaro and what Paraguay have built. They're just a very difficult team, and they got the individual quality to hurt Argentina. Now, obviously, I think we both can agree they're getting 3 points against Peru at home. So that's already settled there. That's going to be like 4-0, 5-0 again, compared like the game against Bolivia. But the Paraguay game is kind of interesting. There, I could see a little bit of a slip up because, it is a difficult ground to go to. It will be a hostile, like every environment is in South America. But just something tells me with the way Paraguay are playing, I feel like that's going to be a draw. So my prediction would be 4 points for Argentina in this window, which I don't think is catastrophic or bad. But
yeah, it really is. In this window, I can see anything between 6 and 3 points. I think that we're definitely getting that win against Peru, but the game against Paraguay is a complete toss-up. I have no idea what's going to happen in that one. Looking a bit of like the players that we called up, obviously Emi Martinez is back after the 2-game suspension that he picked up. There's a bit of doubt around Cristian Romero after he picked up that injury in the game against Spurs. He's still called up. Apparently he's good to play, but I don't know if he's going to be fit for that Paraguay game. Nico Gonzalez has been dropped, and I think that's going to create an interesting problem for Scaloni because usually he loves to play with Nico Gonzalez. And I wonder if against Paraguay, we go back to a 4-4-2. We play with those 4 midfielders and try to do something like with Messi and one of the 2 strikers up top or something. If we go to a back 3, if we keep the 4-3-3 and maybe we play one of the youngsters, like there are many players that could fill into that role, like Nico Paz, Garnacho has come back, Buonanotte. I really want to see Buonanotte. I feel like he's been a really good pickup for Leicester this season, and he's just a player that I like in the way that he plays. I would love to see him get minutes. But overall, I think it's going to be very difficult because in the midfield, we've seen some doubt with Argentina in the way that we play. We saw it in the game against Venezuela. Obviously, the pitch was horrendous, but it was still pretty tough to play. And up front, I feel like Lautaro and Julian really have to step up in terms of the kind of goals that they can provide to the team. And, with the way that Paraguay have organized under Alfaro, they are a great defensive unit and they can really hurt us in the counter-attack. So it's going to be a difficult game. I think I'm going to agree with you that it's going to be a draw, but I could see us win that game and I could see us lose that game perfectly. Like, I have no idea what's going to happen.
I would agree. I think it's a 50-50 game between Paraguay and Argentina, which is pretty crazy after what happened in the Copa America, where Paraguay had their worst campaign ever, and then Argentina won the Copa America. But I'm more intrigued to see like Nico Paz, who obviously gave the assist to Messi last time around in the game against Bolivia. Would like to see Buonanotte. I think he's a quality player. I think there was another call up, Barenchecha from Valencia, the midfielder.
Yes.
So, but I doubt he's going to get it.
Barrenechea is
Barrenechea.
He's an Aston Villa player on loan to Valencia. Obviously, not the best of times to be at Valencia, but he's getting minutes. He's making it work. He came in from the Juventus Youth Academy, so like he's been in Europe for a long, long time now. I doubt he's gonna get minutes, but I think that is mainly just a prospect that Scaloni likes. He does this a lot.
Yeah, because he's only like 20 years old, isn't he?
He's 23, but he likes to call up young players and just have them train with the main team and see how they do against, alongside the big boys, and just kind of see him from up close, but not really give him any minutes. So I doubt that Enzo is going to get many minutes, but we're going to have to see. I think it's an interesting call up for sure.
So I think we're going to both agree that they're going to get 4 points in this window because, I mean, God forbid you draw with Peru or even lose to them. This is not a 2009 Martin Palermo gets a late winner in the fucking monsoon in Buenos Aires sort of scenario in this game. It will be cruise control 3-0. So we're both going to agree on 4 points for Argentina this window, which is still another good window. Then we move on to Bolivia. Okay, so they're not going to play in Quito. For people that don't know, the game will be moved to Guayaquil, which is at sea level.
So it's sea level.
So you guys can see what's going on here. If they played in Quito, it would be a bit more fair game for Bolivia, but Ecuador said, no, we're moving that shit to sea level because we're not going to give you any advantage here. And then they host Paraguay in El Alto. Ooh. This is a tricky one because I think they will lose to Ecuador. I mean, if they get a draw, if they get a point in Guayaquil, that would be sensational. But the game against Paraguay, it's just like you kind of predict a win or a draw. And even if they go down to 10 men Bolivia, they're still going to get some points. Now, I was reading some reports that Bolivia might not even call up some players to go play in Guayaquil. They said, guys, just stay in El Alto. Just stay in the altitude. We're just going to prepare. Yeah. Like, these guys are just so fixated on just playing at the altitude and getting every win there. And that's how they're going to qualify to the World Cup, which, hey, you're going to use any strategy to your advantage to qualify. So I respect it. And the hustle is crazy, but it's a crazy hustle at the moment. I feel like it's going to be a 3-point window. I think they're going to beat Paraguay at home and lose to Ecuador away. But there's been, I did check that Miguel Terceros, who's been on fire for them in the last couple of games, like last 4 games, he's got 3 goals. He's not got an injury. So I don't know if he's going to play. I think he is called up to the national team. But if they're missing him, who's been a very key, I mean, we saw the goal against Colombia. I mean, ridiculous goal from him. So yeah, my prediction is 3 points.
Man, every time we talk about Bolivia, it feels like we're talking about a team with guerrilla tactics. It's actually crazy the things that they go through.
Hey, man, guerrilla tactics will get you to the World Cup at this point.
The game against Ecuador, even though it's at sea level, I think it could be tricky in the sense that Ecuador are not really known for scoring a lot of goals. If Bolivia can set up defensively, I feel like they could really put up a good fight in that game. Eventually, I'd expect Ecuador to break through and get a win in that one, but I don't think it's going to be an easy game for Ecuador whatsoever, just because it doesn't seem like they make it easy for themselves at this point. The game against Paraguay is very, very interesting because these are 2 teams that we often associate with defensive play. And so it could either be a snooze fest or they could go off script and just give us one of the best games in qualifiers that we've seen. I have no idea what's going to happen. I could see like anything between 1 to 3 points. I doubt they get more than 3, honestly. But like, there's a slim chance that they get a draw against Ecuador. And after that, I think I would predict probably a draw against Paraguay. I'm honestly giving them 1 point this window because I think that they'll barely lose to Ecuador and that Paraguay is going to get a draw in Bolivia. But it's probably going to be a game that Bolivia dominates, but they don't really get many good opportunities. But Alfaro has just been such a master at defensive tactics with Paraguay that I don't know if Bolivia, especially if they're missing Terceros, if they're going to have enough to break through that defense and potentially could see a nil-nil in El Alto, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, the Terceros, he's a big miss. So, yeah, look, if Bolivia get 4 points in this window, I mean, start the engine, people. Let's get the visas prepared to go. Get the tickets, get the visas prepared because they might be going to the World Cup then. Okay, so this is a team that I said had to get 6 points, and I think me and Rank talked about it in September after their horrendous window again, was that they needed 6 points against Chile and Peru, and they got it. If they didn't get 6 points in that window, there would have been serious consequences. So they got the 6 points. Great for Brazil. They finally trusted some players from the local league. Botafogo basically got the win over Chile, and Luis Enrique and Igor Jesus were phenomenal, I thought, in the window. Now it gets tough, Rank. Now it's Venezuela away, who obviously got a point against Brazil in the first game, or was it the second game of these qualifiers, and they host Uruguay. Now we're going to see, are these guys the real deal, or are they still fraudulent Brazil? Now, here's a stat for you, Rank, right? Here's a great stat. Venezuela have never beaten or gotten a draw against Brazil at home in World Cup qualifiers history.
Jeez.
Brazil have won every single game in Venezuela. This is a must-win for both teams, Venezuela and Brazil. So if I'm Brazilian, I'm not feeling confident. You just know that Venezuela are going to come with all the fury and try and get a victory here. And the game at home against Uruguay, I don't know what to expect because both teams, you can't trust them at the moment. And now we just saw that Militao and Rodrigo got injured, who I would assume are going to both be starting. Are we going to then see Estevao? Are we going to see Savinho in the starting lineup? And who's going to start at center back? Is it going to be Murillo from Nottingham Forest? So Dorival, he's got a lot of issues going into this window. I think Brazil need another win in this window for me because they still got a lot of tough games. They still have to go away to Bolivia, away to Ecuador, I think away to Argentina. They need to get some wins here or else, I mean, they're going to be in serious trouble throughout these qualifiers. I think they're going to beat Uruguay at home. I think they're going to get a draw away Venezuela. I say Brazil get 4 points. I'm not confident in it, though.
Yeah, no, it's hard to be confident in this Brazilian, especially with the injuries that you were talking about, because usually the guy who would replace Militao in that center-back position, Bremer, is also injured.
Yep.
And we're going to have to see who ends up replacing Rodrigo. I saw that Hendrik wasn't called up, so maybe Hendrik actually gets a call-up now that Rodrigo is gone. Personally, I'd love to see Estevao starting after seeing how he's performing for Palmeiras in this area. It could be a massive statement to just play him in one of these games, but it's a tough decision for Dorival for sure, and mainly because the main problem for Brazil has been the midfield and the defense so far. Even though offensively they haven't been creating much, at least they have the individual quality. At the back, it feels like they are so deorganized, and losing Militao like that was such a massive blow.
And I mean, they're starting Danilo.
They're still starting Danilo. Is he going to be the captain still? Because they're still not calling him Neymar.
Of course, it's Danilo's captain.
It's gonna be insane. I think I agree with overall your predictions. I think that it's gonna be a draw away to Maturin, which has been a fortress for Venezuela in this campaign so far. They've been very, very solid out there, but I don't think they have enough to beat Brazil. I wouldn't bet on it. And then against Uruguay, I think it's gonna be a close game, but usually Uruguay doesn't get the best of Brazil in Brazil. You know, we have all heard the stories of the Maracanazo, but since then it hasn't been easy for Uruguay, honestly. So I could see a very, very ugly game where Brazil just grab house a win and they get 4
like in
points
the Copa America, the war that was there in Vegas.
I'd expect Brazil to barely get the win over Uruguay on this one.
Just a quick question. So now that like Rodrigo and they have a couple more injuries, what do you think should be the front three then for Brazil? Should it be Estevao, Igor Jesus, and then Vini on the left? Or would you start both of the Botafogo guys in the front three?
Luis Enrique has been so good. I've loved seeing this guy play.
Did you see that goal he scored the other day, by the way, where he just used a quick feet? Oh, my God.
I did. It's insane. Oh. I think for now, you keep the front three, like you mentioned first, and you bring Luis Enrique off the bench. But I really love that guy. I think he's...
So you would start Estevao?
I would start Estevao. Like the way he's been performing, top goal scorer in this area, I think that he deserves...
I mean, it's insane. He's 17 years old. He's the top goal scorer and top assister in the Brasileiro. I mean, that's
quite crazy.
It's craziness. I don't think a lot of people are talking about that, how insane it is. So... yeah, I think we kind of both agree that 4 points for Brazil. I think that would be a really good window, in my opinion, because these two games are tough.
These are tough games.
All right, let's talk about a nation that are really finished. I mean, they need a win here. I mean, if they don't get one win in these two games, it is beyond finished for Chile. So obviously they have Clásico Pacífico against Peru, which we saw at the Copa America was one of the worst football games I think I've ever seen in my life. Horrendous football. And then they host Venezuela at home. Now, I remember in the 2002 World Cup qualifiers, Chile did lose to Venezuela at home, and I think that might be the only time ever Venezuela had beaten Chile in Chile. So, and Chile were, I think, bottom of those World Cup qualifiers as well. I could see a similar pattern here. I just have no hope in this national team rank. I don't. I just don't see any quality. Arturo Vidal is on Twitch and going crazy about Gareca and the national team. It's just a sad situation for Chile. Like, there's no positivity. Like, you can't watch the football and you say good football. You can't look at the U20s and say, oh, there's some talents coming through. There isn't. I mean, like, Osorio is the other one, and then there's the player Gremeo. I think his name is Aravena. I think this is going to be another tough window. I could see maximum 3 points. I don't think they're going to win both games. I think they're going to lose away to Lima. I think there's going to be a loss there. Now, I think they might beat Venezuela at home. I feel like Venezuela are just going to be too, I don't know. I think Venezuela are just going to be a little bit naive in that game. And then Chile might just open them up. 1 point. I think Chile will get 1 point.
Oof. That'd be really tough for Chile. I feel like we're talking about elimination right there if they get.
Oh, yeah. No, if they get 1 point in this window, it's done. It's done.
Yeah, or if it wasn't done already. Listen, I think that Chile probably have the most interesting call-up window that I've seen out of Conmebol. There's a guy that apparently he's been called up a few times already that I haven't heard of before. Lawrence Vigouroux, who is a goalkeeper born in London of Chilean descent. So they got another foreign player that they've been calling up for 2 windows already. That hasn't been playing for instead of Brian Cortés. He's actually the goalkeeper for Swansea. And I think Swansea has had a really good defensive record so far in the championship. They've only conceded 9 in 14. So apparently Swansea fans are saying that this guy is their only good player. So I think there's a goalkeeper right now that they can potentially rely upon instead of Brian Cortés. We'll have to see. I think the guy is a bit of a personality as well. He's very active on social media. So he has an ego, and that's great for a goalkeeper, I would say. And then there are 2 call-ups that they had, which I think, it's getting desperate at the moment. A centre-back, Francisco Sierralta, who's recently completed 100 caps for Watford. So he's had experience in the championship for a while now. Now, Watford have been conceding a lot of goals, so I don't know if it's the best call-up for a centre-back, but apparently it's someone that Chileans have been asking for a long, long time. And then the striker, they've gotten Felipe Mora, who's had 14 goals in 30 games.
Isn't that the guy
Portland.
from MLS? Yeah,
he is the guy for MLS.
Oh, Jesus.
Listen, desperate times call for desperate needs. If they are not going to start Brereton Diaz because he doesn't speak Spanish, they may as well play the guy from MLS. I don't know what to expect from Chile, but I think finally Gareca is not calling up, except for Vargas, who's still there. Like the Generación Dorada guys are mostly gone, and he's trying to move on to younger guys, the new generation, but I think it's a bit too late. Away to Peru, it's always a difficult game for Chile. In Chile, they usually beat Peru, but away in Lima, it's very, very difficult. Peru are just so bad, so I don't know what to expect.
Both teams are bad, though.
Both teams are really bad, but I feel like that's an elimination game. Whoever doesn't win that game is out. I have a feeling that none of them are going to win. I'm going to give Chile 2 points this window. I think both games are going to be draws.
So they're going to be 0-0, obviously between Peru and Chile, and then 1-1, I assume, then against Venezuela.
Yeah, 1-1 against Venezuela.
Let's say if they get, in a magical world, they get 6 points. Are they back on then the qualifying cycle then? If they get 6 points?
Potentially, like they go up to 11, and they're right up there with Venezuela. Like it depends on what their next fixtures are. I know that their final 4 games are absolute hell, so they need as many points as they can from these 2.
I mean, if somehow they can rectify this and make it to the Intercontinental playoffs, I mean, Gareca, he saved himself big time.
Yeah, giving him a statue. Like one for Peru and another for Chile.
All right, then we move on to Colombia. They go obviously away to Uruguay and they host Ecuador. I mean, I expect a win against Ecuador at home because Ecuador do nothing away in Colombia. So that should be a win. The game against Uruguay, that's the most fascinating one because obviously, Colombia, I would say, are the better team right now. But away from home, they've kind of been lackluster. Obviously, they went away to Bolivia, lost there. They went away to Peru, they drew there. So they haven't been the greatest away side in these qualifiers. but they still got the talent. I just want to see Yon Duran start. That's all I care about.
Yes.
I don't want to see no Borja, Borge, none of these Bs. Give me Duran. The guy will get you the goals for this national team with Lucho, of course, and the way he's playing and James. So I think Colombia have a couple of injuries with the national team, but I don't think it will affect them too much. I do believe, though, the game against Uruguay is not going to be pretty. But the game against Ecuador, I feel like it's going to be like a 2-0 win. I think Colombia will get 4 points and just keep on rolling, man. They're just going to be a juggernaut at the next World Cup.
Yeah, I think I agree. I was reading from some Ecuadorians on their call-up, the post on Twitter, and they were saying it's going to be 6-1 revenge or something.
Oh, if that happens, that's going to be emergency video.
They are not expecting much from that window, from that game against Colombia, especially. Like, Colombia are looking so good at the moment. Like you said, the game against Uruguay is going to be super ugly, especially because, like you said, Uruguay are in desperate need of some positivity, and playing their final game of the year at home is going to be a huge boost for the Uruguay players. I don't know what to predict on that one. Potentially, just because I really like the way that Colombia have been playing, and I think that the front three is going to be so powerful, I'm going to say that that's going to be a draw, and they are going to beat Ecuador. So I would predict Colombia to get 4 points this window.
Yeah, look, I don't know why people will want like more analysis of Colombia, because we just know they're a good side. I just want to see them keep this momentum and keep playing this way into the World Cup in 2026. Because if they do that, they have a really good chance of winning it. That's crazy to say, but they do have a very good chance as long as these players can keep on healthy, like the James, like the Lucho, like the Durans, like Munoz, all these players. As long as they can keep playing at the level they are, Colombia will be a force at that next World Cup. I really do believe it, as they will get 4 points in this window. Okay, Rank, I dare this team not to get a win versus Bolivia at home. If they don't get a win at home to Bolivia, Ecuador have never beaten Colombia in Colombia. You know how many goals they've scored this century in Colombia, Ecuador? Guess how many goals?
Gosh. Hit me. 2 goals.
Uno.
Oh, gosh.
So you can guarantee yourself they ain't going to score nada in Barranquilla. So 3 points. That's my prediction for Ecuador. I mean, they're the most boring side in South America right now. Like, at least Chile will give you some entertainment for how bad they are. Same with Peru for how bad they are. At least Bolivia are entertaining. They'll give you goals and they'll concede goals. Venezuela right now are entertaining. Ecuador is just like, meh. For the talent they got, I expect so much more. And now we got the horrible news that Oscar Zambrano, who was playing at a whole city, is suspended because of PEDs. God knows how long he's going to be suspended for. So it's just terrible news for Ecuador. He was really a talented player, Liga de Quito. I thought he was going to be the dude who could be next to Caicedo for the national team for the next decade. And now he's gone. And I don't know who's going to play in the front three. And we don't know how they're going to set up. If you move the game to sea level, you are mandatory to get a 3 points there. So 3 points is their window.
Man, with Ecuador, it just feels like they're in a negative spiral for a long time now. Even before the Copa America, it feels like I swear that Ecuador has had the same collab squad since March or something. Like, we cannot be talking about the youngsters anymore because it's the same guys every single time. And it just doesn't seem to click. And it's just so sad to see, considering the amount of talent that they have, that no amount of coaching is able to get the best out of these guys. Like you said, they should get those 3 points against Bolivia. I really don't want to see them drop points in that one, even though I said that it's possible with the way that Bolivia have been setting up and how much Ecuador struggle to score goals. I think that they are going to find a way to get 3 points in that one, but I give them no chance away to Colombia. Like, if it was like the 2022 Ecuador, you could see something happen there. But this Ecuador and this Colombia especially, like, I see no way that they get something out of that game. It's just very disappointing, like you were saying. We were so high on Ecuador for so long, and the state that they are in right now, even though they are most likely going to qualify to the World Cup, it's difficult to be positive about this team at the moment.
They should be at the level of Colombia.
Yeah.
They should be. So that's why I think everybody's so disappointed with Ecuador. It's just about, like, there is no problem with the defense. I don't think there's a problem with the midfield either. I think the midfield is fine. As long as you have Caicedo, you're good. I mean, honestly, it's just the attack. I mean, it's so dire. You can try Enner Valencia. You can try Rodriguez. Now they're going to try maybe Campagna from Inter Miami. They have to try something until you find some potion that's going to work here. H2O, H3O, HCO. Now you're going to try Campagna. potion and see if it works because they got to find some solution. I want to see some minutes for Yoboa as well. I mean, he hasn't gotten any playing minutes at all. So Paraguay have a very interesting window because obviously we already talked about the game. They're playing Argentina at home and they go away to Bolivia. I think this is more of a tough window for Paraguay, even though they played really good football in the last two windows. I think it's now going to be a little bit of a downturn. And I'm going to say to get 1 point in this window rank. I just think the game away to Bolivia is just way too tough at the moment. If they could somehow beat Argentina at home, that would be fantastic. And then, they're really going to everybody's going to get the Gustavo Alvaro book and just mesmerize every single word in that book and just admire it. But I just think away to Bolivia, it's just too tough for them.
I mean, if they get 3 points or more, I think that the Paraguayans are really trying to get into that hopium already, that they're actually making it back to a World Cup. It would be insane, honestly. But Paraguay have proven it against really big teams already in Conmebol. Like they played Brazil, they played Uruguay, and they've done fantastic, in my opinion. So I don't think it would be out of their reach to do something in this window. Like I said previously, that game against Argentina, I feel like it's a toss-up, honestly. I have no idea what's going to happen. I did predict a draw, but they could perfectly win that game if things go well for them. Like if they can keep that defensive structure and maybe get a goal in the counter-attack or something in transition. They have quick players. They are very physical as always. And then against Bolivia, I did say that even though they're playing in the altitude and they're probably going to suffer a lot, that Bolivia are going to be the ones to dominate that game. I don't think that Bolivia are going to be able to break through. So I'm going to predict Paraguay to get 2 points this window, and I'd be happy with that if I was from Paraguay. 3 points, 4 points would be absolutely fantastic, but 2 points wouldn't be too bad considering the position that they're in right now. They just need to make sure that they don't bleed out too much in this one and just get more points in the next ones.
Do you think Gustavo Alvaro is going to start Pita Bread, or should he go with Sanabria after Sanabria scored those 2 goals against Venezuela off the bench? Because Pita he's like a bulldozer, but Sanabria kind of brings that more technical quality that maybe the strikers need for Paraguay. And then obviously playing with Enciso. And I mean, I'm still not the biggest fan of Almiron, but Almiron got the assist in the last game against Venezuela. So who would you start as striker then?
I feel like Pita would be great in the game against Bolivia because that's probably where you need a more physical striker to just kind of hold up the ball in the midfield and just wait for the others to hit up in transition. Meanwhile, in the game against Argentina, I feel like it's a game where being at home, you can potentially take the game to Argentina. So that would probably be a better game for Sanabria. I think I would there's definitely positions where you need one and positions where you need another. So Alfaro has a really interesting choice with the striker on that one. I could see a situation where he can use both in this window.
Nah, it's just great though to see Gustavo Gomez finally get all the playing time he deserves after not getting anything at the Copa America. I mean, how you can bench one of your best players was still crazy to me. And then this is another team that desperately needs a win in this window, and that's Peru, because they ain't going to get nothing against Argentina. That will be 0 points, and it just all comes down to the game. The Clásico Pacifico. I mean, obviously, I don't think both teams will qualify, but any team that loses that game, finito, done. You're not qualifying to the World Cup. I mean, I still have no faith in this national team whatsoever. I think it's going to be probably one of the worst football. I hope it's a banger of a game and it's like 3-2. Or I remember like it was might have been 2014 or 2018 World Cup qualifiers. I think this game finished 3-4. It was Gareca and Sampaoli for Chile. It might have been 2015. So that was for the 2018 World Cup qualifier. It was a crazy game. Yeah. I still remember it. I don't think we're going to get anything like that because both teams are allergic to scoring to goals. Peru, they can only score from either crosses or set pieces. So you could call them the Arsenal of national teams at the moment. And I think it's going to be a draw. And I think Peru get only 1 point in this window, which is not too bad, but they desperately need a win versus Chile.
Mike, Paulo Guerrero is still in the squad.
Oh my
I don't know what to tell these guys. He's not even cutting it in the Peru league anymore, and he's still there. For real, like is there nobody else to call up? I could probably go there.
Fossati might be a terrorist.
No, it's crazy, for real. Listen, it's all on the line in that game against Chile because, like you said, against Argentina, there's no way that they get anything. Away in La Bombonera, it's going to be wild if they actually do get something. it's all against Chile, and they need the 3 points because otherwise it's already too bad of a position that they're in if they don't pick up 3 points in that one. I just don't think they will. I think it's going to be one of the most boring games we've seen, exactly the same as in the Copa America. It's probably going to be 0-0, and I predict Peru to get 1 point, and it's probably lights out after that.
But don't you think, Rank, for Sati and these players, they got to look at Chile and say, these dudes are so garbage, and they're so down on confidence. We got to take the game to them. Surely, like the Peruvians of Sati just got to drill that into their heads and say, let's take the game to Chile. Let's give them nothing. But, with Fossati, surely they would. But, Fossati and his tactics are going to be like, let's just defend. Let's try and get a set piece goal. I think Peru, they play such negative football that, okay, it's fine if you're getting results. But once you're not getting results, people will question you. And yes, you can look at the quality and you're still calling up the likes of Paulo Guerrero, Lapadula, and these guys. You're like, what the heck are we doing here? But you got to do something to win this game. Watch Rank. This will be a crazy storyline. They're 0-0. Paulo Guerrero gets subbed on in the 70th minute. He gets an 85th minute winner.
Jesus, he kisses the badge and something.
Kisses the badge.
No. I swear, if it happens, it's gonna be wild. But like you said, confidence can only get you so far. I think when your average squad is 35 or something, you have no legs and you cannot make a good pass. It's just so difficult, man. Even if you have all the confidence in the world, you have your home ground behind you. It can just get you so far. You need some football at least. Even in South America, where it's just dogfight after dogfight, you need some football at least to win some games.
That's why I want to see Quispe in the midfield. But the Quispe doesn't get any minutes for the Peruvian national team, which I don't understand at all. I think he's a baller, and he's somebody who could actually drive with the ball and somewhat create. And nobody else on this team. What are we going to do? Just play it out wide to Alvancula and wait for a cross or for him to do step overs, and then he shoots with his left foot. That's what we expect with Peru. So. Yeah, I think 1 point. Now, I'll say this to my Peruvians. If you guys get 4 points in this window, hey, have all the copium. Have all the copium. Say to yourselves you're going to qualify for the World Cup at that point. Oh, boy. Rank, you have warned me for many, 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 many months now that this is about to implode. Mm-hmm. And we might reach peak volcanic eruption after this window if it doesn't go well.
Yep.
I'm just going to put this scenario into your brain and you give me an answer. If Uruguay get 1 point in these 2 games, is that done for Bielsa with Uruguay?
Depends on the manner that he loses these games. Because it could be a situation
0-0 and they lose 1-0 to Brazil.
Potentially, because I think there's a high chance that Bielsa makes some very questionable lineup choices or weird substitutions, and then it's like, okay,
Ugarte back again. Please,
potentially, if something like that happens again, listen, he's a loco for a reason. The guy is literally insane. If something like that happens and he doesn't get the results, I feel like it's probably lights out. But if he makes it competitive and gets unlucky, maybe they stick with him for a bit more. But it's just that the relationship between Uruguay and Bielsa is already broken to a degree that I don't know how you can recover it at this point. You need 4 or 6 points in this window for the relationship to go back to what it was, because the players don't like him, the media don't like him.
So basically, what's gone wrong? Is it basically just his tactics, or obviously some of his lineup choices haven't worked out, and they're not scoring a lot of goals at the moment. I think it's now 4 straight games they haven't scored a goal, or 5 straight games. I don't know what to expect in this window, Rank. I feel like you have to go to that game against Colombia and just say, let's just get a win here. Against Brazil away, maybe you could do the same tactics like you did away at the Bombonera and just play on the counterattack and use Darwin to his strengths, I would say. Again, the game against Colombia, I feel like it's a must win. If you don't win there and then you get destroyed by Brazil, let's say 3-0, 4-0, I think it's done for El Loco. And then what do you do? What do you do? Get Oscar Tabares from out of retirement and hire him as manager. So I think Uruguayans have to be cautious. You can be critical of El Loco, but don't expect it's going to get any better with any other manager. The only thing I ask for Bielsa, por favor, this is the only thing I ask. Please start Luciano Rodriguez. Okay? That's the only thing. The dude is scoring goals for Bahia, and he doesn't get any minutes. Yeah, I think this window, if I'm going to be honest, I think it's another 1 point. And that would be very, very, very bad then for Uruguay. One point in this window, I think he's done.
The things that have gone wrong for Bielsa, I feel like the media have mostly criticized him for like the way he's treated the old guard, like Suarez, Cavani, and stuff, which I think it's honestly fair because those players were not up to the level of the national team anymore. But Uruguayans are like very fond of those players, and the fact that he didn't give them a proper send off in a way was not really. It wasn't great, and obviously then Suarez came out with the statements, and it went overboard. And it obviously then the Copa America, the way the team was playing, it was very suspect. The media didn't like it at all, and they are always going to be more critical of him because he's from Argentina, so it's very, very difficult. After that, in these few games, I said that it's going to be very difficult for both of them. In Brazil, usually they don't get much, so I predicted that to be a loss.
Actually, yeah, I was going to give this stat. You know when was the last time Uruguay beat Brazil in Brazil?
It was like in the 80s, right?
Nope. 1950 World Cup final.
Oh, gosh. So we have to go back all the way to the Maracanã, so it's actually insane.
Yep.
Oh, no. Yeah, I expect them to lose against Brazil, even though I think it's going to be a narrow loss because Brazil aren't anything spectacular, and offensively they are very lacking. It's potentially going to be an either low scoring or high scoring, very close game, but I expect Brazil to edge it out. And in Montevideo, I think that it's going to be a draw. I don't have enough faith in Uruguay to win that game. I predict 1 point. And after that, it might be lights out for Bielsa. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they try to go for Diego Aguirre, like the Peñarol coach, after what he's done with that team in the Copa Libertadores. I feel like that's who I think they are mostly eyeing upon for a replacement at this moment.
When you treat those players like the old guards and they're like heroes of the nation, it's going to always be very difficult to say goodbye. But they have to be done. It had to be. And unfortunately, Bielsa's taking the stick for doing it. Somebody had to do it. What are we going to keep playing? What do you guys want to be? Another Peru or Chile? Keep playing those guys until they have no legs. So that's kind of the issues I think Uruguayans face. But yeah, these two games, if they lose both of these games, Rank, they might be in trouble. Let's just say it like that. They might be in trouble for qualifying to the World Cup. Because I think they still going to play Argentina, away to Ecuador, might be away to Bolivia. Yeah, away to Bolivia. They don't got easy games either. So Uruguay, you got to pick up a win here. If you don't, then the last thing we're going to talk about is Venezuela, who host Brazil at home and go away to Chile. I feel like this is a massive, massive window for them because if they don't pick up any wins here, I think Vinotinto's dream of qualifying to their first ever World Cup are starting to dwindle. And, we've been so positive about them. They had I think, a very positive Copa America, topped their group for the first time ever, got 9 points first time ever. They had a great start to this World Cup qualifying cycle. But ever since the Copa America, it's kind of like they've been found out and they've been way too naive defensively in all aspects. I think the issue is defensively, they don't look like a solid unit anymore. So how do you fix it? Well, you either got to play more defensive or you got to put new personnel, or then Rondon's got to save your ass every single game, or Soltendino, whichever way it's going to be. I don't think they're going to pick up. If they beat Brazil at home, that's going to be a massive statement. I don't think they're going to go away to Chile and win, Rank. I think I'm going to predict 2 points.
I think I'm kind of in the same boat. I was just checking because their last qualifier game that they won was that 3-0 that they got at home against Chile all the way back in October of last year. So it's been over a year since they've gotten a win in qualifiers, which I hadn't realized it was that bad because we were so high on Venezuela and we kept saying them in the qualifying spots that we didn't realize it's actually been a lot of draws and a few losses here and there for them. And the last 4 games, like they lost to Bolivia 4-0, that's pretty bad. The 2 draws, then they lost to Paraguay. It's been pretty bad. Like the Vinotinto is not tasting so good anymore. It's actually sad because I was so high on this team. I've always had a soft spot for Venezuela. I think we all do because they are like the only nation from Conmebol that hasn't made it to a World Cup. And seeing them finally do this well gave us a lot of hope. But I think, like you were saying, they got found out and their cracks are starting to show. And these 2 games, Chile may be bad, but they are by no means an easy game, especially going away to Santiago. And that game in Maturin against Brazil, it's going to be key because if Venezuela can do something offensively, I feel like this is a Brazil team that you can expose, especially with all the injuries that they have. But I just don't think they have it in them. So I'm gonna stick with 2 points the same way like you did. A draw against Brazil, draw away to Chile, and that's gonna keep the expectations there. They are not gonna be in the qualifying spots, I believe, but they're gonna be very, very close within striking distance, and they're gonna have to pick up some massive wins in the next few games if they actually want to make it to the World Cup.
So what do you think has kind of been the biggest issue for them that they can sort of fix their problems in order to get some points in this window? Do you think it's just been defensively, they've just been shockingly bad?
No, I wouldn't say that the problem has been defensively. Obviously, that game against Bolivia, they got really, really exposed, but it was a bit of a fluke game, I think.
What about the game away to Paraguay? They had the lead there, and all they had to do is just hold on for 45 minutes.
Defend it. Yeah, the game against Paraguay was pretty bad, the way that they conceded those 2 goals. Yeah, I mean, defensively, you're right in that it hasn't been the best, but they are within Conmebol standards. I think that offensively they are just too reliable on. They just rely too much on Rondon. The rest of the players haven't really stepped up. Bello, after that bicycle kick against Brazil, hasn't really shown up. That is like the only highlight of his career at this moment. And Soteldinho has disappeared from the face of the earth. Like it's actually quite sad. I feel like if Soteldo can do something in these 2 games, to kind of prove that he still got it and he can provide something to the national team, it would be massive. But offensively, they are just too reliant on Rondon to get them the goals, and it's something that
they created enough chances against Argentina as well.
They did.
And Rui just made some crazy saves in that game.
Difficult, like I said, they mainly got found out, and it just feels like they cannot surprise anybody. That game against Canada in the Copa America was a bit of a turnaround point because. In that game, they really should have lost in 90. There was no reason they should have taken that game to penalty. Canada dominated that game for the entirety of the match, and if it wasn't for that goal from Rondon from like the halfway line, they wouldn't have even made it to penalties. Ever since then, it feels like they have not been playing to the same standard, and yeah, it's going to be very difficult for this window. They could really use a win against Brazil.
So let's say that if they get 0 points in this window, are they done?
I mean, not done because they are still
but mentally they would be done.
Mentally it would be over. Mentally, I don't know how they recover because mentally they are already really struggling. They must have felt so much pressure, potentially being the first team from this nation to make it to a World Cup. Seeing yourself in the table that you are qualifying must be so dreadful now to look at yourself being 8th. With so many draws and a few losses along the way, just so many points dropped. It must be a really, really heart-wrenching feeling. And if you don't pick up wins on this one, yeah, mentally, I feel like it's going to affect them massively. And I don't know how they will recover for the next win.
And I think Soteldinho talked about that before the Copa America. He said, would you rather win the Copa America or qualify to the World Cup? He said, qualify to the World Cup. So it just shows you that there's so much mental pressure on these players that they got to really now just kind of, I think, take it easy. That's what they have to do. Just take it easy, play your game, and take your chances. That's the biggest. They're going to create chances against Brazil. They're going to create chances against Chile. The issue will be who will put the ball in the back of the net. It cannot just be solely Rondon. If they can put the ball in the back of the net, I think that will be enough. Obviously, in Conmebol World Cup qualifiers, you don't see a lot of high-scoring games either. Last window, we saw some pretty big results like Colombia and Argentina, but you don't really see that a lot. So for Venezuela, it's just get the 1 or 2 goals and just got to be more defensively solid. If they can get 4 points in this window, that's great because they need to. Yeah. It's still such a dogfight from 5th to 8th. It's going to be a dogfight until the final match day. Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. How many points do you think each team will get in this window? Do you think Colombia are going to go 6 for 6? Are Brazil going to go for 6 for 6? Are Uruguay going to go 0 for 6? And let us know your thoughts. Which team is most under pressure to win in this window? Which team do you think can relax? And which teams do you think are finito? Remember to go subscribe to Rank's channel. His link will be in the description down below. And we will be here after the window. I feel like we're going to have a lot of storylines to talk about, Rank. Maybe we're going to talk about some managers being sacked or players basically being finito. I feel like we're going to have a lot to talk about after this window. So join us for that. But have a beautiful day. Stay safe in this crazy world. Till next time. Adios, people.